Welcome to the Rustic Garden Homestead. Today's video is all about projects you can do in your garden in the fall or in the spring. I think they're a lot of fun. They are going to be ways that you can save money, expand your garden, grow more, but basically just kind of sculpt your garden and change it up. In the fall, I like to be thinking about what do I want to do differently next year. It is the end of the season. We're towards the end of September, so the plants are dying off. But I thought it would be interesting for you to see some of the growth and the different trellises we'll talk about, different ways to plant, and just different things that you can do. Number one, if you're thinking about kind of expanding your garden or growing more, your perennial herbs, your perennial flowers, it's a great time to divide them up now. If you want to do a plant sale, all these can be sold easily for $3, $4. Divide up your oregano, your thyme, your mints, your chives, any perennial plant. They can sit, I'm in Maryland Zone 7, they can freeze, they can sit through our winters, and I just set them up just like this, let them grow, let them do their thing. If you can't get to it in the fall, you can divide plants early in the spring. I also like going to nurseries, different big box stores that have plants, and I buy the plants that are put out as damaged plants, 50% off, and I just bring them, to the house, set them up, and you can see that they're all growing back. Just give them some TLC, let them get some, and usually what happens is the nurseries, not so much the nurseries, but the big box stores don't water their plants well, so they die off. But as long as there's some green growth, just buy them at a great discount. These were all like $1 each, normally $6 to $8, all perennial plants. They're going to be beautiful. But they will start growing back, and you can save yourself a good amount of money. I also like, this is a goji berry. This was planted up in the spring, and I've just been letting it grow here. It's a nice, strong, solid plant. You could take cuttings from other plants. You can do that with usually raspberries, figs, goji berries, figs, and you can plant them up and just get them established, and they'll be ready for next spring. Maybe you're getting older, your back's not what it used to be, your joints aren't what they used to be. Changing your beds over to a truly raised bed, and I'll show you different examples of growing beds, but this one's about, I think, 36 inches tall. This is a Vegega metal raised bed. I am affiliated with them. Check out the video descriptions if you're thinking about metal beds. It's really nice to have a structure this high. I don't have to bend over. Much easier to tend to the garden when you're standing. Because of the depth, I can pack in 10, 12 pepper plants in there, and they just grow beautifully. This is my third year growing this way. It is loaded with pepper plants. These are shishitos, and because the depth is so deep, the root systems have tons of room to grow. Banana peppers in there, bell peppers down there, and again, it's late September, so a lot of stuff is starting to fade, but it's only about, I think it's about 3 feet wide, 6 feet long. Cost a little money to purchase, but the metal beds are going to last a good 15, 20 years or longer. And I'm standing right now, I don't even have to bend down to get in there to tend or really manage the plants. So medical issues, old age like myself, the raised beds can make a real difference in your garden. And you can pack the plants in more closely depending on what you're growing, so you also get more harvest, more production. Other options are raised beds that aren't quite as tall. These are 17-inch raised beds. I have Swiss chard in there, jalapeno. Actually, there's 3 jalapenos in there. The other one's right there. And another Swiss chard in the front. I usually grow lettuce or radishes. Now that we're into the fall, I will put radishes in there. Pretty soon, the peppers will die out. We're getting an extended warm period here in Maryland. Again, you can change up your beds. The more soil that you have in there, although initially it's a little expensive to set this up, you can really grow a lot more in this small footprint. And this is the size of the bed I just showed you. So that's like 3 feet wide, 6 feet long. You can really pack the plants in there. Maybe you need something different for your footprint. These are vertical towers. I'm affiliated with them. These are green stalk tower vertical growing systems. Use them predominantly for strawberries and herbs. I do have some winter greens growing over here. Well, fall greens, cool weather crops, and those are all different leafy greens growing in there, and that's just nice. You can expand your garden, easier to tend to too, because most of this I can do standing up, But it's 6, 12, 18, 24, 30 pockets right there that can grow just about anything. You know, you got to be respectful of the size and stuff like that. But it's just a 2 foot by 2 foot footprint, and that's going to be loaded with leafy greens. I use this in the spring for the same purpose, fall, as you see, and I grow my winter crops, my fall crops that way. Other projects that you can do in the spring and fall is plant your fruit garden. I have a couple videos on this already, but these are all blueberry bushes. I have about 16 in here. This is the 5th year of this jungle growing, so I have to prune my blueberries and get this place into shape. Trees back there, nectarines, plums, they were supposed to be dwarf, but you can plant fruit trees, blueberry bushes. I have blackberry canes, raspberry canes. You can plant fig trees, goji berries. You can plant your fruit plants now. All you're doing in the fall is really getting them established in the hole. Water them regularly so they don't dry out because they have a little root system and just that little root ball, and let them do their thing. They'll hibernate, they'll set up, and then come spring they'll take off and grow. So you could set your fruit garden up now. You can also do this in the spring. You're going to be buying plants that are leaved out and they're growing, and you're just going to be putting them into the ground in the spring, growing into the warm weather. Back there I have a fig tree. Figs can go in, and all along there in the back, those are muscadines, which are like grapes. You can plant those too. So a great fall project, getting your fruit plants into the ground. Cattle panel has so many uses in the garden. So this is actually an 8-foot arch. The space in here is about 4 feet. And there's different ways that you can drop the cattle panel in. I just made something with 2x4s. You can see that I just insert the cattle panel. That's secured to the framed beds there. And with a 4 feet gap, it creates an 8-foot trellis. On the right side, cherry tomatoes, they're still going. On the left side, some blackberries moved in. I'm going to be moving those. But you can weave blackberry canes, raspberry canes up there. You just got to be respectful of how crazy some of your fruit canes can grow because they'll take over the whole space. But cherry tomatoes on this side, blackberry canes on this side. This year I got to clean up the center, but my goal is to be able to walk through here. Cattle panel is 4 feet wide. I think it's 16 feet long. It has so many different uses. I use it a lot for arches. And oh, here's this pretty cool. Here's a spider just taking over there. We'll leave that up there for the fall. But it's a great way to grow. 3 cherry tomato plants in there. Took over this whole side. It was high production, you know, middle of July. Started getting hot. Stuff started getting beat up. But really from mid-July to mid-August, production was great coming out of here. This is my sunken container garden. I grow different crops in here. Peppers predominantly. I think it's about 13 7-gallon-ish containers in here. And you just cut out half the bottom, sink the containers down 2/3, mulch around them, put all the good soil right in the middle, and you just have to water and take care and feed what's inside the container, and it's a great way to grow. You can see how nicely the peppers are doing. Also dropped in some broccoli. I do this in the later summer, get my broccoli growing, and then as the peppers die off when the frost comes, the broccoli takes over and I'm still growing in here. But it's a nice way to create a nice thin row, really fill it with plants, and all you do is really cut the bottom out, like I was saying. A good, you know, 50% of the bottom or more, and the root systems grow down into the earth, but you also then concentrate all the good resources right in the container, keeps everything fed. This is my asparagus patch over here. But I really like the sunken container garden, highly recommend it. I get the containers from nurseries, big box stores. You have to ask, do you have any left over? Neighbors, friends that are doing any kind of landscaping, I ask for their containers and I just save them, and then eventually I use them for something like this. Here's another way to use the cattle panel. This arch is lower. This is a little bit over 6 feet, and it's just because the space is bigger inside. So down here I have, I don't know, probably 12-inch wooden raised beds. These are filled with strawberries. Did a video on this, I think last year. Actually bought some strawberry plants from a nursery that had all these runners, and I put 12 runners into here. That's baby plants. 12 into there last fall. Come a year later, it's fall again, the strawberries just took off, reproduced. I have probably hundreds of strawberry plants on here. Now I can use these to propagate and put into the rest of my garden in different places. All the strawberries in there are going to come out. I mean, it's just crazy. But by dropping in a cattle panel, a single piece, letting it just push out to the edge of that raised bed and then push out over here, it makes a nice arch. I'm going to be removing actually all the strawberries out of here. They'll be going in another place, raising the soil level. Going to grow cucumbers up this side, keep the strawberries there, and it's just a nice way to really use an arch to expand the amount of food that you can grow. I have a lot of videos on trellising, but I wanted to point out these are deck railings. So if you know anybody who's tearing down their deck, or you find these at a good price on sale, you can just buy one piece of deck railing for one side, another piece for the other side, and you can make this beautiful A-frame, extremely sturdy trellis. With these 1-inch railings going across here, they're nice and solid. And what I did is took, this is from Home Depot. I got these for like $1, and they go in the ground for decoration or something like that. I use them as shelving. And because of this 1-inch railing, the shelves just sit right in there, and I'm growing my cantaloupe right on the shelves. It's pretty cool because these aren't going to weigh down, pull off from the vine. So I use the A-frame, and an A-frame is just made with a hinge. You know, you get a bigger hinge if it's a bigger A-frame. Screw it together, this will collapse, this will open, creates an A. And then also, you know, as part of the project, I'm just inserting these shelves so that I can grow what I want in the way of larger melons, pumpkins, etc. And they're not going to tear away from the vine. But I like this setup. It's a nice, sturdy, solid trellis with shelving. Another way to use cattle panel is across a bed. This is a 8-foot by 4-foot framed bed, and I just put the cattle panel across this way. And you can see I'm growing tomatoes up that side. This is where the western and southern sun is, so sun still gets into here, takes care of the plants. And when you're doing a trellis, you want to, you know, have a strategy. If I put everything right here, it's going to shade out this space, which is fine if you want to grow crops that like less sun and heat during the late spring, early summer. If you want these to get full sun, then you have to put the crops that are going to vine up the cattle panel in the back. But this was set up with tomatoes. I put in some Asian cabbage, Chinese cabbage, some more broccoli, and this will be transitioned over to cool weather crops. But it's a nice way, again, to use the cattle panel. And for this, I just put in some 1x1 posts, 1, 2, 3, and the cattle panel just got placed in there. It springs out naturally. This keeps it from, you know, springing flat. And I did that on both sides, and I have this nice sturdy trellis here for growing all kinds of different crops on it. And of course, you could do cucumbers over there, you could do green beans, you can even do zucchini. Anything that vines can go up these cattle panels. Another example of the cattle panel, and this is where I grew my cucumbers this year. I just used U-posts, just like the 1x1s I just showed you. Drop them right into here, drop in the cattle panel, and then right through my path, I have another tunnel. This is again 4 feet wide. Cattle panel comes in 4 feet wide sections, 16 feet long. They're going to run you now anywhere from $28 to $35, but these are going to last forever again, so it's really, really worth it. Have grapes growing up there for the first time. You can plant grapes now if you can find them. You can plant grapes in the spring, but I'm going to be growing grapevines up this side, cucumbers up this side next year. It's just a great way to use the space that's right over the path that, you know, I can walk through very easily and grow different vining crops right up that. On this side, this is an 8-foot tall A-frame, and I was using it for melons. I was cantaloupe on that side, melons on this side. And when they were growing up this way, I had to hammock them because there was no shelving for them to rest on or anything like that. But this is 8 feet tall, so it's really tall, and these are just 2x4 by 8 feet long, put together with just a hinge right up there. Same A-frame principle, but if I step back, you can just see how tall this is. And this is more suitable, like the melons and stuff are an experiment, but this is more suitable with the thin string going through there to make the trellising for beans and for cucumbers. It's perfect. I'm going to be growing cucumbers on this side. It's going to take them 8 feet into the air, which is going to save me a lot of space. Other things will go in here. And again, my garden's in transition right now. Another example of the arch cattle panel going across an 8-foot long raised bed. Grew beans in there on the one side. They're drying now so that I have dried beans for the winter. You just let the pods dry. Even if they get rained on, the beans will dry. And when it's been a dry day for, well, dry couple of days, 2-3 days, the pods are crisp. You can pick them, you're gonna have dried beans. Cucumbers coming up this side. I mean, there are a lot of ways. I've shown these before. These are just closet shelving. You get these at the big box stores, repurposing stores, and they're just tied to a T-post or a U-post, and you can grow really whatever you want up them. It's inexpensive. They last forever. These are like 7 years old. Coming around this side, if you're interested, you can build yourself a cold frame. And what I do, I just want to explain the principle. I go to the big box stores. This is a piece of polycarbonate. I buy the polycarbonate, whatever size it's in, so I don't have to cut it. And then I just build the frame. You can see the frame right here. You know, you want it to be angled, something like this. You know, the angle doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to get online, you can read about the exact angle. But I built the whole box to the size of the polycarbonate, and then the cover that I showed you would drop on here. I use this in the spring. These are my super hot peppers going all the way down. They take a lot longer to grow, so I get them out earlier. I put the polycarbonate top on here. You can see, let me get this out of the way, what the inside looks like. Higher back, lower front, polycarbonate top stays at an angle. Put my super hots out early, put the top on. They stay warmer, they grow faster, and now I have beautiful scorpion peppers, ghost peppers, habaneros growing in here. And some of the stuff you can think about is, you know, how can you start the season earlier? And a cold frame is a great way to do it. Or how can you extend the season, depending on how you're growing. This is a fun project. I'm going to be doing a, I don't know, 6-minute video on the whole thing. But this is just corrugated plastic, and it can cost you, you know, $25 to $30. It's polycarbonate, UV protected. It's going to last for 10 years. And this is just a frame. Your frame can be 18 inches wide, 24 inches wide, up to 3 feet wide. And you just drop in, let's see if I can do this. You drop in the polycarbonate. I know I can do it. There we go. So you just drop it in like that. It makes a nice low tunnel. The lower your plastic, be it greenhouse plastic or polycarbonate, the warmer it stays. And then I would just cut out a piece of cardboard. It would go right here. Cap this off. I can grow all my leafy greens under here well into January here in Maryland. And what I do is I get some bungee cords, put a screw in, and then this just goes over, and then it would secure to another screw on that side. That bungee cord is a little bit bigger, just for an example, so a smaller bungee cord. That secures the plastic because the wind can lift this up. But this is just a great way to create a low tunnel that's going to last forever. And then it comes apart real easy, really easy to assemble, and I just, you know, put it to the side when I'm not using it during the summer. This can be dropped anywhere that you have a row of crops. You can keep it like this. You wouldn't want to bring the dirt level up so high, but you could build your frame this size, keep the earth down here, and then whenever you want, you just drop on the plastic. During the summer, you remove the plastic, the frame stays there, however you'd like to do it. But this is a nice way to start the season early and extend the season, and it's a great project to do fall or spring. I think those are some of the more interesting projects. Things to think about. Over here is some shade cloth. And I just put in a post right here, and then the other side ties to the fence. Another post down there where the shade cloth is. And you can design an area, like all this lettuce was started back in late July. It would have been too hot. It would have gotten beat up. It's actually starting to bolt a little bit because the weather's been weird and I took the shade cloth down. But by setting up a couple of posts or designing an area for shade cloth, you can just leave it out, and then I would pull it over, secure it to this post, create shade. I can grow the cool crops from spring into summer longer. That means I can get more lettuce, more leafy greens, and I can start my fall garden earlier because I can pull the shade cloth over in mid-July and then plant the cool crops under there and just adjust as I need to. But a shade cloth section of your garden is a great project, and you only really need a couple of T-posts, any kind of post really. I like using the T-posts. They're going to cost you a little bit more money, but wood is just as expensive now. The wood eventually decays and you have to replace it. You're not going to have to replace these T-posts forever. The cheapest way to grow is in the earth. Like I have lots of framed beds that you saw when you're walking around, and a true raised bed that's getting up to, 30 inches, 3 feet tall really makes a difference if you're struggling with back or joint issues, etc. The cheapest way to grow is right in the earth. So this was just planted up with some cool crops, some transplants, some lettuce in there. I can actually see the spinach starting to sprout. 3 feet wide, you can make the row as long as you want, and you can plant in it. So you don't need to spend a lot of money. So if you want to expand your garden with just a simple row in the earth, you can go ahead and do that. In here, I had some tomato plants. So I had the T-posts in. The tomato plants grew up here during the summer. It was a tomatillo. These posts have to get removed. What I have here is just a clothing line going from there, and this is the top of the house, the top of the roof, I mean, and on the other side is the bottom of the roof. It makes a triangle. And then on this side, I would have another clothesline, or I just pull the plastic down. Why is that important? Because once these posts are out of the way, I can take that greenhouse plastic, and I recommend 4 mil to 8 mil greenhouse plastic. You can buy that most places online. And I will just pull the plastic over here, weight the edges down with a brick or 2x4, and I'll be able to grow these cool crops well into January. So I can extend the season, and I can start earlier in the spring by setting up something like this. I'll show you the other end down here. So this side looks more like this. I think this is about 10 feet long, maybe 12 feet long. So this is the top of the roof, then you come down to the lower part of the roof, and then you would come down the side, and then you want enough plastic to come out about a foot. So you want to go 12 inches in, measure up, measure to the top, double that because you need the same amount of plastic coming down here. You can put up another side if you want, or you can just pull the plastic out and then weight it down. But this is the cheapest way to build a cold frame, or to build a low tunnel. That means the plastic is low to the ground. We can't really walk in it. But it's real easy then to remove the 2x4 on here, flip the plastic over, harvest, tend, pull the plastic back over, put the 2x4 down. And you leave enough out here so you can bunch it together, put a rubber band around it, maybe a bungee cord or anything just to tie it off, seal that out, stays warm, the ground stays warm, you grow further into the winter, or you can start earlier into the spring. And then greenhouse plastic looks something like this. There are so many different projects you can do in the fall, in the spring, to expand and change your garden. Please subscribe, follow me. I'll be showing you how I put the beds to rest in a couple of weeks, and I'll really teach you how to grow food, have fun, take care of problems, plant, do all those kinds of things. But most importantly, you'll save some money, you'll have fun, and you can really build your garden and shape it as you wish. Thanks so much for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and thanks again for watching.